Right, so Israel's Iron Dome defense system has come in for a fair bit of scrutiny in recent weeks for basically failing to deliver, failing to defend Israel from rocket attacks from Lebanon on the north of Israel, failed to protect Haifa from drone attacks by Islamic Resistance in Iraq, and questions of whether or not the system is up to scratch, whether it has been overwhelmed by the weight of attacks upon Israel and simply cannot cope with it, or whether Israel is now in enough military distress that they're running out of the munitions and ability to maintain the system after more than a year of having to defend itself from its neighbours because of the genocide it has been enacting in Gaza. Have they run out of interceptor missiles to load into the Iron Dome batteries? Have they lost so many batteries now they're simply big holes in the Iron Dome coverage that they can't fill? Are they choosing to protect some areas with what they have left at the expense of others rather than do the obvious and decent thing by their own people and just bring an end to the genocide? Well, the answer seems to be that the Iron Dome's defense system is now toast. And although there are other air defense systems protecting Israel, losing this one is significant. And we know now this seems to be the fact of the matter due to a recent course of events that have basically given it away. Right, so the Iron Dome defense system is toast. It is deader than Monty Python's parrot, so to speak, at least in terms of the nationwide coverage it formerly offered. It might still be limping on to a small extent in patchy areas, but it has seemingly had its day. Whether that be because Israel are running out of interceptor missiles and are rationing them, or they don't have batteries anymore in some places to load them into. $50 million a pop these batteries are, and Hezbollah were taking them out as one example with cheap drones. Whatever the true and accurate status of the Iron Dome is, though, it isn't what it was, and so as per usual, the US are coming to the rescue in what is also a very dangerous escalation. To make up for whatever shortfall there is right now in the Iron Dome defense system, the US are deploying, as has been reported in recent days, the THAAD air defense system in Israel, the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD. Only US soldiers can operate these things, so by handing one of them to Israel, and the US only have 7 of these THAAD systems apparently, it means US soldiers will have to be deployed against any nation that attacks Israel, requiring THAAD to be deployed by response. It means US troop boots on the ground in Israel. And one thing I'd like to point out at this point is that Ukraine, go to Ukraine for a minute, wanted one of these THAAD systems themselves to be deployed there, and the US, they wouldn't give Zelensky one. So Israel getting one must be going down with him like a cup of cold sick, I should imagine. But it also, to my mind, shows that escalating in Israel is either more important than Ukraine's issues, or US concerns over taking on Russia far outweigh any concerns the US might have regarding those attacking Israel right now. Possibly not the smartest line of thinking, but then protecting Israel incessantly, given what they are doing, isn't either, in my view. At any rate, deploying this THAAD air defense system in Israel is basically confirmation that the Iron Dome is in trouble. It can't cope, and this is a hole patching exercise, if you like. The one thing protecting Israel more than anything, and certainly over the last year, given the state of the Iron Dome, is actually the belief that everything's actually fine with it. So all the reports getting out of successful missile strikes getting past it have been the last thing Israel has needed. They are hurting them more than imagine, the power of the word. I can't imagine why they won't let Western journalists in to cover what's going on, really, can you? But equally, those there already feeding reports out are themselves ending up in significant bother at Israeli hands, just as the video I did the other day covering the arrest, beating and detention of Grey Zone journalist Jeremy Lafredo has shown. Arrested for aiding and abetting the enemy, it's the accusation, when actually all he was doing was being a journalist and reporting the facts. So what is THAAD and how will it help Israel then? Well, THAAD is, I suppose, the next generation of Iron Dome battery, if you like, really, where the Iron Dome is designed to tackle short-range missiles and drones with other air defense systems as well in Israel that are designed for longer-range ordnance. THAAD should be able to cope with anything from short to long range, and its interceptor munitions can apparently take out anything up to 200 kilometers away. That means they can even tackle missiles outside of the Earth's atmosphere, apparently. I said interceptor munitions there rather than missiles, and I said that on purpose because THAAD doesn't actually use missiles. Too heavy. They literally work by hitting the target warhead so fast that the kinetic energy of the impact is what sets it off. THAAD batteries usually are made up of 95 soldiers, 6 truck-mounted launchers, 48 interceptors, 8 for each launcher, 1 radar system, and a fire control and communications component. So, what are the drawbacks of this system then? Well, there's a few. There's a finite number of interceptors before it needs reloading for a start, so anything more than 48 missiles coming in at once, and it's got problems. And we've certainly seen volleys come from Lebanon in far larger numbers than that, and Iran as well. It also can't detect anything small. It is completely useless against drone attacks because they aren't a big enough target, and they don't come in from a point of high entry, that high altitude element of the acronym THAAD. What's the cost of one of these THAAD batteries, incidentally, as well? Well, if you thought Iron Dome batteries were eye-watering in their cost of $50 million apiece, this thing comes in at $1 billion minimum, according to Al Jazeera. It could be twice that as their high-end estimate. So it all seems like an awful lot of expensive risk for the US to be taking here, with a defense system so expensive and, on the face of it, so vulnerable to much of the types of attack we've seen come from the likes of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, not to mention the risk involved by putting US boots on the ground to operate this thing, because that is now direct involvement by the US against those attacking Israel, or retaliating against Israel, as is more accurate, given their propensity to be the ones striking first. And of course the response is as many of these strikes have been for Israel's assault on Gaza. So why are the US doing all of this then? Why are they bothering? Why are they going this far this time? Are they so far gone in their pro-Israel leanings that nothing is beyond question in order to stand by their genocidal allies? Biden, of course, promised not so long ago there would be no boots on the ground in Israel, so he's broken his word on that. Another red line rubbed out. For one, Israel need it, with the Iron Dome toast and them still being hell-bent on striking Iran again after the most recent retaliation at the beginning of this month, and the US seemingly incapable of telling them no, don't do it. It's still a matter of how dare the Iranians strike us back after we hit them. Twice Iran have hit Israel this year, the first time they had directly struck Israel in their history, and both were responses to Israeli strikes first. Now Israel want to go for round 3, but don't have the necessary air defenses to protect themselves against another Iranian retaliation, and what will probably be military targets once again. Biden also thinks he's got Israel convinced to not hit nuclear sites in Iran this time, but military targets instead, as if he's got any control over Netanyahu whatsoever. However, this will again be an unprovoked attack still. Iran's last strike was a response to the previous Israeli one, as I've already said, where the US should be telling Israel to back off and pack it in. They no longer have any control over Netanyahu or his insane hard-right government, and they will continue to do as they please. So THAAD is there to protect Israel from his own prime minister, essentially, because the US seemingly can't do anything else. Though Iran, of course, haven't targeted anything but military targets, which is in line with international law. There's 2 more reasons for this move by the US as I see it, though. Firstly, this is an opportunity for the US to test an air defense system they devised against Iran, whose arsenal, for the most part, and their capabilities are still largely unknown. I don't think Iran have shown their hand fully at all. There's no guarantee they're going to do this time either. And Israel keep poking them and provoking them to escalate, though. So there's an opportunity for the US here to do a little bit of military testing. And there are certainly enough hawkish people in the Biden administration just looking for a reason to send even more armaments to Israel. And that's all despite that 30-day limit Biden has just put on Netanyahu to start getting aid into Gaza, or he's going to stop arming him. But nobody really believes that will be enforced either, because Biden will no longer be president in 30 days' time, and every red line he's ever laid down for Netanyahu has just trounced all over, and Biden has done nothing about it. Those hawkish US figures lead me into my second reason for this as well, and that comes down to an expected Iranian response in light of Israel's plan to hit them again. A direct strike on the US and Israel would give the US, or some on that administration at least, the excuse to possibly go to war more formally with Iran, directly with Iran at that point. And that's absolutely what Israel has wanted for ages. But that could be something the US is also ill prepared for too. Looking at this as someone not military in any way, but just having gone over this whilst writing my video, doing my research, doing my due diligence as I do, it seems overwhelming the THAAD battery's ability to cope, and with the Iron Dome licking its wounds as it is too, sheer strength of numbers, missile-wise, would overcome it. Seems to be the logical conclusion. It makes complete sense to me if Iran's response to whatever Israel do next also ignores THAAD completely, not giving the US the excuse to attack them back, but humiliating them instead with strikes on military targets, getting past them. Just seems like the obvious response to me. So while there is tactical advantages, perhaps, as the US might see this move, it wouldn't be happening at all if Israel were not determined to strike Iran again. It wouldn't be happening if there was a ceasefire being enforced. It wouldn't be happening if the Iron Dome was fully functional, which it quite obviously isn't. It wouldn't be happening if Joe Biden didn't ignore every one of the red lines he's ever drawn for Netanyahu, to the point Netanyahu thinks he can now do what he likes and will suffer no repercussions, and the US will keep on arming him at the US public's expense, because Netanyahu would be right, wouldn't he? Nothing, it seems, not even what amounts to a significant escalation on Israel's part, will stop the US standing by Israel. I debate whether anything can, frankly. It's little wonder Israel is so keen to gag the media, is it really? It's a shame I made this video, really, isn't it? I also made this one here, documenting what happened to the real heroes getting the truth out to the West from the situation on the ground there in Israel and Gaza, such as Jeremy Lafredo, still confined to Israel as he is, being investigated for aiding and abetting the enemy, a capital offence, and also complete garbage since he was just doing his job. He was just being a journalist. But get all the details of that story here as you suggested next watch, and I'll hopefully catch you on the next feed. Cheers, folks.